So we got our deck resurfaced and new railings put up, but we wanted to put our own style of balustrades in. And normally when you have a deck done, this is the kind of balustrades you get. You know, just vertical poles. We wanted this. This is Chippendale style. So we wanted this. So I'm making these out of the pressure treat that I hinted about in a previous video. I've done several of them already. Now I have to do the mirror of this one that will go here, and then here, here, behind the big green egg, and behind the generator, there. So onward to the shop, and I'll show you how I put these together and with what materials I used. The first step is obviously to mill the lumber. This is the lumber I alluded to in the loom video that was sitting on the floor, stickered and drying and equilibrating in the shop. So I'm going to mill that, get it ready so I can turn that into the balustrades that are going onto the deck. And the lumber's sitting over here now, leaning up against my wall. And here it is, pressure treat. It's 1 by 6 by 8. And what I do is I rip each piece in half, and that gives me a piece just under the size of a 2 by 4 in width. So you have the 2 by 4, and you have the balustrade, and now you've got this shadow line on either side. Adds a little more accent to the deck. I'm not going to shoot a video of me ripping these things in half. No. So after I rip them in half, the next step is to go to the deck, take the pieces and make a frame within the railing, the correct size, it's going to fit snugly within there, bring it back into the shop, and then mount all of the angled pieces in there for the Chippendale look. Now, there's no math involved here. It's real easy. I'll show you how to do that. You can set it up once and just cut all the pieces as you go along and knock them out pretty quickly. So on to the next step. I'll rip these, shut the camera off, rip these, and we'll move on from there. So what I did was the stock I ripped out, I cut 2 pieces for the top and bottom to fill in with the balustrades, and then a piece for either side. And these go right up against the posts, and then these go between them. This is not a perfect rectangle by any means. This is 57.5, this is 57 3/4. These two are 3/8 difference. It's not fine carpentry, it's a deck. Then I added these corner braces on each corner to hold it all together while I take it and put it in the shop and start adding all the balustrades. So let's put the last corner brace on and get it into the shop. Okay, time to take it down. Clamps everywhere. Alright, so this will fit in here when I bring it back out as nice and snug, but not too snug. Then it gets screwed into place. I've already marked the top piece as the top with a T, so the orientation will be correct. The outside corner braces tell me what the outside is, and I have to mirror this shape right here on this side. And I have a cheat sheet to help me do that. So without further ado, as they say, let's get it in the shop and set it up for the next step. So this is that board that I mentioned, this piece of plywood that I do these builds on. It just gives me a nice clean space. It's wider than the outfeed table. I don't want to work this way because the joint is in the way. So the first things that I want to do is stabilize the corners, and the way to do that is to go ahead and fasten each corner with 2 screws through here and through here. Now the screws that I'm using are, depending on where you're from, square drives or Robinson square drives. They're stainless steel, 1 1/4 inch, coarse thread, self-tapping screws from Mcfeely's. Pretty, huh? Stainless steel because it's going to be outside all the time, even though it's going to be painted. Mcfeely square drives, that's where I get all my screws. Everything I have is fastened together with square drives from Mcfeely's. Sorry, Canadians, Robertsons. And they're great. They don't cam out. You really got to work to make them cam out. They really hold well because they've got really well cut threads. Anyway, let's get started with doing the corners first. Okay, corners are done. I've got the top where it should be, up there. And now I can start doing the mirror of the set of rails that sits next to this. So it looks nice and symmetric. So let's move on to that. So the first thing we're doing is the cross pieces. It's basically one cut at either end. I did a test cut, did a measurement, and I got my angle set on the table saw. Now I'm going to cut this one to length, cut both ends of it, do the other one, cut both ends of that. And then there's a saddle joint that goes between these two to fit them together so they go across without interfering. Okay, so that one's fit. I'll cut the next one and then we'll jump to the saddle joint after that. Got them both cut. I'm going to mark where the saddle joint's going to go and we'll hand cut that over on the workbench. It's kind of a tight fit because it's a busy workbench, but let's go ahead and get these marked up. So, I marked the top of this, I marked the bottom of this. When I take them like so and put them next to each other, like this, I can line those marks up. I'll bring it close to the camera, and that's my cut line. Those are my cut lines right there. Just cut them both at the same time. And I got to mark the depth, which of course is half the thickness of one of the balusters. All right, they're marked. So I have, bring close to the camera, I have my depth of cut, my width of cut, my angle of cut. Now I line this up in the vise on the table saw and we'll cut this with the Dozoki. Yeah, I got to get over the side and see if I'm actually getting to the line. Okay. Love these things, by the way. Got like 2 or 3 of these Japanese saws, pole saws, and I've discovered these, or was introduced to them many years ago, and I've actually kind of really love them, especially for doing fine work. They're great for doing dovetails, too. All the way down to the line. Not quite. And there we are. So, got the oops, a little loose. All right, so now I gotta chip this out. I'm gonna start with just a chisel, popping it out a piece at a time. Till I get down to the bottom, and then I'll of course flatten it out better. See which way the grain's going. And then take a chisel close to the correct size of the hole, of the cut, and peel out the rest. Now, to keep from blowing it out from the other side, it's a deck, I know, it doesn't really matter. No one's going to see it but me. I'll flip it around and start trimming from this side. A little bit of paring here. All right, let's see how that looks. And there's my bridle, oops, can't even see it in the camera. There's the bridle joint. Let's go fasten this in place over there, and then we can start with all the remaining diagonals that have to go on this. These are lining up pretty good. What I'm going to do is I drill from down here and put a fastener, one fastener in each corner. And later on I can flip it on over and put on other fasteners if I want, but right now I want to get it fastened in place. Then we can start with all the fiddly bits that are going to go inside here. Okay, and there we go. Diagonals are in place. Now we start with the fiddly bits. So I think I should, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I should fasten that there. It's got a little bit of looseness, so we're going to fasten that. There we go. So, and this alone, you can push against this when it's fastened into the deck, and it won't blow out on you once you fasten it. 2 screws here, 2 screws here, and 2 screws here into the deck rails. Well, now I got to start doing the real finicky bits, and I can show you what I meant about setting up the saws once and going on from there. I forgot to show you a little cheat sheet. So this is my little drawing that gives me it gives me directions and everything, which ways things have to go. And I have to duplicate this one right here. So it looks like so it'll be a mirror of this one right here. So it behooves me to start up on this quadrant right here. Once I get that right, the rest of it follows the way it should, just easily. I correct myself. Actually, I turned it around so that the working area is right next to me. I've got 2 gauge blocks that set 4-inch dividers on the balustrades, which is code. I put them in place. Now, if I needed, I've got this angle already set on the table saw for this particular piece here. Now, if I needed to get that angle, I take a piece of scrap wood, put it up against my 2x, and then just touch here. Now all I have to do is take a piece of wood, put it on there, like that. It's up against the outer piece, and draw a line. There's my saw cut. For the chop saw, we're going to do the same thing. Going to come up to, put the gauge blocks up like so, run this up against the diagonal, take a piece of stock, put it all together, draw my line. There we go. Now I have the line to set the chop saw at, the angle. And with a laser, that makes life a little easier. According to my pointer, that's 36 1/4 degrees. It's wood. It's never the same. So now the next thing to do is to grab a piece. Now never throw any of these away because they're all going to be part of the project. So take the. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this cut over here on the table saw. And you've seen me do that, so I won't film that again. And then we'll come over and we'll do the chop saw and show you how this all works. Okay, that angle cut is made now for this piece here. And I also drew lines on here to make sure I was going in the right direction. So take this, put it like so, get it in place. Now I want to mark where the cut has to be, which is right there. Now, I'll put that mark across it. But to be absolutely sure I'm doing the right thing, since this has to go this way, I actually have to bring it up here. Mark across. Okay. That's just like an indexing mark for the laser. So when I make the cut, that will fit right in there. And there it is. So now I do is screw this in place and then move on to the next one. There we go. Let's get the first one done. Okay, and then we'll drive a screw in here. Okay, and the reason why a 3/4 piece works in here, where we have half-inch pieces holding it up over here, is this plywood has a bow in it, so it just raises it up. All right, there's the first one in place. Next one is the same thing, same process. I'm going to do the measurements for length and cut. Notice I've done no math. No math. Gotta love that. That's not going to fit. We'll get another one. And now we will proceed. All right, that's it. This quadrant's done. It's all mounted up, and now I can go and finish the remaining 3 quadrants and then put it up on the deck. So, as I said before, this is the top. I moved it this way so I could work on it, but it goes into the deck, viewing it from the deck like this. So this pattern mirrors the pattern next to it. Now, these diagonals go this way, these diagonals go this way. You saw it in the drawing, you saw it outside. So now I need to finish up with the rest of the remaining 3 quadrants, and we'll go outside, we'll mount this on the deck. Okay, something I forgot to mention, because I haven't done these in a little while, because this is a long ongoing project. When you're doing the narrow quadrants. In other words, the side quadrants, not the top and bottom quadrants. The setup is a little different. The chop saw is the same. You set the angle for the chop saw for the outside. But for the inside one, because the angle is extremely different, you can't get it with that jig in the vertical. So let me show you how we do that. It's real simple. After you get that measurement like I showed you for the inside using a piece of scrap wood and you get the angle, you're going to set that angle on the table saw blade, and then you're going to use a miter gauge to run your piece through there to get that angle, because as I said, it's too steep to get it from the vertical with the jig. But you can do it by laying it on the table saw itself and cutting it. And let me bring the camera down and show what I mean. You see that angle is set up as I measured, like I showed you before, and I've cut the outside end piece with the miter saw at this angle. Now I bring it back, mark it for the cut, and then just run it through on the miter gauge like that, and that gives me this angle. So that's for the outside ones. It's a little bit of a change up. I forgot about that particular aspect of it. So let's go forth and I'll finish this up and we'll do the outside thing. Okay then, let's mount this up. Now putting all those pieces of wood in there does change the shape, so it can be a little snug in places, hence I have my persuader with me. So here we go. So yeah, that's about right there. So I got this pretty good shadow line all the way around. Yep. So now we just fasten it in place, and I happen to bring the screws with me in my pocket. All right, there it is in place. I can take that screening down that kept the dogs from jumping into the garden. So now, of course, we'll move on to the next ones. But that's it. That's the process. No math. Pretty simple. Not a whole lot of finicky bits, although they kind of look like finicky bits. Move on. There's my dog barking, saying hello. Playing games. Anyhow, that's it for this project. For film anyway, so go make great things out of wood.